Hello, and welcome back to my garden. Today, it's all about dahlias. This is my dahlia section of the flower garden. We are in the flower garden. This section right here is just for dahlias. Now in the foreground there, you may see some verbena, and that's a different story, which we'll talk about in a second. But the rest of this bed is nothing but dahlias. And I hope to expand this section in the near future, and I'll explain that in a second. This year so far, the dahlias have been incredible. But as I've come to learn, they will start to peter out shortly, probably in the next month or so. Now, for many of you, or even when I lived in the Northeast, up in New York, dahlias really wouldn't start taking off until August, September, then put on an incredible show, and then be done by the first frost, which could be anywhere from October to, say, November, depending upon the weather and where you live, etc., etc. But here in eastern North Carolina, the dahlias all start taking off because it gets so warm so quickly. They start taking off much earlier. So here we are, still in spring. Summer is at the end of the week, just a few days away. And these guys are just absolutely performing. And I'll do a pan through in a second here. I'm actually having a little bit of trouble keeping up with the deadheading because they bloom, they look fantastic, and then the flowers go over, and they probably go over a bit sooner than they normally would because we haven't had a lot of rain. We actually haven't had a significant rainfall, anything over 1/4 of an inch at this point I would call significant, for about a month, and the forecast upcoming doesn't look much more promising for the next 10 days or so. So what I've been doing is I've been watering the garden every 2 to 3 days. But the dahlias are still doing well. Again, just some of the flowers, they don't seem to last as long. So they open, they bloom, they look good for a day or two, and then they go over. Whereas if it was cooler and we had a little bit more moisture, they would probably last 3-4 days, if not longer. Nonetheless, everything is looking good and green. Before I start getting into the individual plants here, I did have some casualties over the winter. I'm in zone 8, eastern North Carolina. I think we're 8B now. The category has changed from 8A to 8B, the whole USDA chart thing. So I can leave my dahlias in the ground. The only caveat is a lot of my dahlias are relatively shallow planted. I don't have them 6 feet under. I don't have them 6 inches under for the most part. They're usually 3 to 4 inches down, if that, sometimes. So what I do in the winter time, or the fall, late fall, early winter, is I'll come through and I'll add more compost to the bed, and then I'll add mulch on top of that, and hopefully that provides a protective layer. But we can get heavy winter rains, which dahlias do not like to be super wet, and add that, even add in just a little bit of cold. Let's say a 40-degree night with an inch of rain, we could have dahlias rot in the ground. And it looks like I had a few casualties this year. I had Melody Dora right over here. That one failed on me. And I had something over here that failed on me. I think it was a Winky Kernel. And in the back right here in this corner, I had a Marry Me fail. It just didn't come back up. It's the tubers, if they're still there, are probably just rotted mush and gush. But for the rest of the bed, it came back to life. A lot of this stuff started popping up fairly early. Again, eastern North Carolina, we get pretty warm pretty quickly, and then because the ground never freezes, it heats up that much faster. So let me give you a quick look around the bed right here, and then I have a dahlia I want to plant out today, which I'll tell you about, and then I'm going to talk about the future of the dahlias. So as I mentioned a second ago, I have these verbena here, and they act as a sort of border. Instead of having a hedge, I have this clump of verbena here. I have the same thing on the other side, and that's the entrance. This is the entrance to the flower garden off the grand walkway. And this huge one over here is Kelvin Floodlight. And see, I already have to deadhead. But there's already new blooms pushing up. This was Bambino, and Bambino really put on a lot of growth. It was one of the super early starters, but it looks like it got a little too far ahead of itself. And as I said, with the dry weather, it looks like some of it's maybe died off a bit. So I'll trim that up today, take care of that. Over here, I have a red skin dahlia. Actually, I have 2 red skin dahlias. This one you could see is blooming sort of purplish, and the one next to it is yellow. And this is the interesting part of the red skin dahlias. Grown from seed, and you don't know what color variety you're going to get. Next to that, I have a scraggly looking Bishop's Children. It has the darker stems, but these nice red flowers, and it's pretty consistent on that. Again, this one, like many of these other dahlias, need a little love and water. Back here, I have Hulin's Carnival. This one has the lovely, lovely sort of spotted, freckled petals. Some of these other dahlias back here haven't bloomed quite yet. Ryan C has just opened up, and it's got some more buds on it. This toppling over one here, which I have to investigate, maybe do some tying up on here, believe this is Lady Liberty or Fleur something or other. I'm not sure which. This dahlia here is Wizard of Oz, doing quite well. Another red skin. Here is David Howard, looking nice. A lot of these plants, a lot of these flowers do need deadheading, and as you saw in the beginning of the video, it's what I was already doing. Not sure of the name of this one, but it's looking good right now. Some of these, like this down here, is Sylvia. Hasn't opened up yet, nor has Lady Liberty, but they're growing and they're putting on growth, which is nice. Now, a lot of these dahlias have been in the ground for 2 to 3 years, and I'm going to talk more about that in just a second here. This one is another David Howard. You can see, again, many of the blooms are already going over, and I just deadheaded this the other night. Down here, I have Pretty Woman Dark Angel, and I just deadheaded this one the other night. It's a small variety, but it does put out a lovely dark flower. Over here is Baby Yellow with inflammation in the back, and inflammation puts out these lovely orange flowers here. Behind inflammation we have Pooh, and this looks like it's a, I can't pronounce the name here, but it does not look like it came back. I thought it did, but yeah, that's a branch from Pooh, and I think that's a weed, maybe. I'll have to do some more investigation into that. And behind them is another variety. I don't know the name of it, I don't see the tag. One of the things I was doing, which I have to follow up with this year, is trying to put the tag, the name of the tag, up on the rod here so that I could easily identify it, like this one over here, where it says Marry Me. But Marry Me did not come back this year. It's very sad. So as you can see, again, a lot of my dahlias are doing very well, but I have a lot of deadheading to do, which I'll get to today. Probably do some tonight as the sun is setting, as it cools down quite a bit, because it's getting quite warm out. But before I talk about what I'm thinking about doing to the dahlia garden in the near future, I want to plant up this dahlia. This dahlia is Cafe au Lait. Now, if you're familiar with dahlias, Cafe au Lait is one of the more popular dahlias right now. I've seen it and heard it talked about on many YouTube channels, Instagram, that kind of thing. It does seem to be a popular one. That being said, it's also expensive. I stumbled across a Cafe au Lait on sale. I can't remember the website. It was year-end clearance kind of thing, and it was like $10. So I took a gamble, and I got this clump, and I went, okay, it looks pretty good. And I wound up dividing one dahlia clump, because they shipped it as a clump as opposed to a singular tuber or tubers. They shipped it as one clump. And from that one clump, though, I was able to get 3 plants. So I have one in a much larger pot that I'm going to leave in there this year and let it grow on into that much larger pot. I have this one, which is going to go right in here to fill in one of my gaps. And then I have another one, which I have on the potting bench, which I'm undecided whether I'll be planting out into the dahlia garden this year, or if I'll just leave it in a pot and let it grow on this year and plant it next year. And I'll talk more about that in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plant this Cafe au Lait right behind this, oh, what is the name of this guy? Guido Shink? I can't pronounce the name. I'll put the name on the screen. I'm going to drop this right behind it. It's supposed to get to about 3 foot tall, or 3.5 foot tall, so it'll work out well over here. If it grows well this year, I should be able to theoretically dig it up. I don't have to dig it up, but I should be able to dig it up and divide it this fall and or next spring. So with all that being said, let me turn around, dig a hole, and get it planted. This is going to be tricky because I already have several dahlias here. I have to do a bit of a steppy step, and my head's probably in the way of the camera. I do apologize for that. I'm just going to pull back a lot of the mulch here. I don't see any ants here. That's a good thing. The soil here is really good because I've been improving this soil in this bed for a long time, and I can actually dig down now 3 to 4 inches beneath the ground level, and it's all still very good, which is important because dahlias like good free draining soil. They don't like their feet wet. I'm gonna drop this in here. There we go. And I'm gonna work on covering this back up. Get the soil tucked in around the roots. Again, my head's in the way, I do apologize. I'm gonna add a little more compost to this. There we go. Get that tuber all covered up. Now, I don't plant my dahlia tubers particularly deep. Let's say they're anywhere from 2 to 4 inches down, and that's about it. And the reason I do this is because we get, when it does rain sometimes, we do get very heavy rains, and the ground becomes absolutely saturated. And again, dahlias do not like very wet feet. So if I planted them 6 to 8 inches down, they would be in danger of being flooded badly. And then there's a higher chance of the dahlia suffering and or rotting or dying. So I plant them relatively shallow. But again, every year I pile compost and mulch on top of that. So technically it does add the depth to the plant over time. And I'm just going to give the dahlia a good soak here with a watering can. I just watered this entire bed last night with a hose, but I'll probably be out here again tomorrow night and water all this again, simply again because of the temperature and the lack of rain that we've had. So the cafe au lait is planted and watered in, and hopefully this one does take and does survive. If it doesn't, it's not necessarily the end of the world because I have 2 spares. But if this does grow and this does survive and thrive, we should be seeing flowers on this probably end of June, early July maybe. Now, that's the next thing I want to talk about is, as I mentioned earlier, is a lot of the dahlias are flowering now, but they'll peter out. And they're going to peter out for a couple of different reasons. One is nutrition. Even though I've been adding to this bed, from my understanding, dahlias are hungry feeders. And because they've put on so much growth and so many flowers, they have been taking up a lot of nutrients. And so what I'll probably do is I'll come by at the end of maybe the beginning of July, and I'm just going to put down a layer of either compost or Daddy Pete's Kickin' Chicken, which is a cow manure, chicken manure mixture. It's already composted, so it's not hot, but I'll spread that thinly over the entire bed, and then over the course of several waterings, or if we do get a good soaking rain, that'll just seep into the ground and help fertilize or add to the bed itself. These guys do peter out and they stop producing as many flowers. We'll probably get another big flush in, let's see, August, probably September when dahlias normally, again, especially in the Northeast, will start flowering. We'll get another flush probably in September when the weather cools down, because dahlias aren't big fans of heat. So, but these guys have been hanging in there. They've been surviving, and I believe most of that is because I have been mulching heavily and again improving that soil a lot. So there's a lot of good nutrients already in the soil, and the mulching helps retain the moisture, whatever moisture is in the soil, into the ground, which helps keep the plants healthy looking and good. Enough of that prattling. What am I going to do in the upcoming year with this? Well, I could leave it as is, but I'm not going to. What I'm thinking of, and I'd like your guys' opinions on this, but what I'm thinking is right now it's a bit of a struggle to move around the dahlias and to deadhead everything, and I have to walk from the inside of the flower garden to the outside of the flower garden, and eventually there's going to be a 4-foot hedge on the outside, which will make it tough to reach the various dahlias, that kind of thing. So what I'm thinking is this fall, dig up all of my dahlias. This will give me a chance to divide a lot of the dahlias because they haven't been dug up. Some of these haven't been dug up in 3 years. I think some of these dahlias would really benefit from being dug up and divided. That would then give me a lot of free plants. I can give some of those away, friends, family, that kind of thing. But what I'm thinking of and again, I'd like your opinions on this, is I'm thinking about leaving a narrow 2-foot walkway from over by the Rabina and then back along the backside. So all the dahlias would get pushed together just a little bit more, but it would allow me sort of an easier access throughout the dahlia beds. It would essentially push the dahlias into a 4-foot strip because the bed's only 8 foot deep and the hedges are going to be about 2 foot thick. And then you figure a 2-foot walkway. So then that would push all the dahlias into sort of a 4-foot strip along the front, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I could reach in easier from both sides and take care of the dahlias. And then with so many new dahlias, theoretically, I can expand the dahlia area, which is always my goal, right out into this new space here, into this new bed section, and basically bring it to about here. So it would be another 8-foot section. So where you see all those pine, though, all that would go away, all this grass would cut down, do the no dig, which I would start preparing this year for next year. But then I could bring the dahlia space into this area here. But this is my thought process. And these are, again, just all of my named dahlias. I do have other dahlias scattered throughout, but they're typically the red skin or the bishop's children. This is what I'm thinking. This is what's cooking in my brain. Digging these guys up, dividing them in the fall or the spring, and then replanting with leaving myself a 2-foot walking row in the back. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, I feel like I'm missing something. This is what I was forgetting. Little Sophie here. So Sophie would much appreciate it if you guys leave a comment. Again, any thoughts or feedback onto my future thoughts or plans for the dahlia garden would be appreciated. If there's a dahlia variety that you grow that I haven't mentioned here or that is your favorite, please leave that in the comments below. I love dahlias, all sorts of shapes, sizes, colors, etc. And I'm always looking to expand as far as my wallet can handle my dahlia collection. If you haven't checked out the links below, please go check out the links below. If you'd be so kind, go over to growinggreenfinger.com. Check out everything I got going over there. If you don't follow me on Instagram, give a follow on Instagram. There's pictures of Sophie often on Instagram. Yes, there is. If you don't want to sign up for another social media platform, again, you can go over to growinggreenfinger.com. All the way in the bottom of the homepage, I have all my Instagram photos replicated there, so you can go check them out there. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you to all the new subscribers. We do have some new subscribers. If you've watched to the very end of this video, just say Sophie down in the comments. Thank you again for watching. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.